My name is Phil Jones. I'm an ex-Scientologist. I was in Scientology for almost 40 years, and then I've been out for over a decade. And during that decade, I've been trying to expose the abuses of Scientology. Today, let me just show you where we are here. This lighthouse marks the entrance of the mouth of the Niagara River to Lake Ontario, and it was built in 1903. And what they did since then, there's a oh, here, let's move this up a little. There's underground. They've got this thing, these pipes and everything that test the water coming from the Niagara River into Lake Ontario, so it's a constant testing thing to make sure that the water's clean, clean enough anyway. So today I wanted to talk about our little episodes, or two of our little episodes with Scientology private investigators. Back in 2016, with the generous donations from a lot of supporters, we were able to put up a series of billboards. These had a simple message on them. It said, "Call to my loved one in Scientology, call me." And we had our website address on it. And we had first put up a billboard in Los Angeles. We had great success with it. We had a lot of press, a lot of exposure on the subject of disconnection. We were doing a lot of protesting at the time as well, so we were kind of on the radar of Scientology. And we had raised the money to do a billboard in Clearwater, Florida as well. And we were going to fly out there, but a friend of ours who protested with us had recently gotten served with what I guess the TRO, which is basically a restraining order type thing. Now, even though he beat it in the end, it kept him from getting close to any of the Scientology buildings for I think 30 days or so, which we couldn't afford to do. So we decided not to fly. We decided to drive. We lived in Las Vegas at the time, so we were going to drive all the way to Florida. It was over 2,000 miles, but Willie and I drive a lot, so it wasn't that big a deal for us. We did find out later also that because there was a film crew following us as well that was documenting our whole journey and doing the billboards and all of that, all the protesting and stuff. That was done by A&E, and it never aired, unfortunately, the show, but we did have film crews with us, and they were going to meet us in Clearwater, Florida. And the executive producer had flown into Florida and was ambushed at the airport by Scientology goons. So I think we chose right in driving. So fast forward through the trip, we arrived in Florida, and we had at the time we had a mailbox in Florida that we had kept because we lived in Florida for 25 years. So we maintained a mailbox there, and we thought, well, we'll stop by there, pick up our mail. So we did that, and as we were leaving and we were driving along, I happened to notice that there was a car kind of sticking with us a little bit. And one of the things about private investigators that is almost a sure sign is, even if they don't need them, their visors are always going to be closed. Another private investigator we knew, a friend, had told us that once. So anyway, I made a few turns this way, that way, and this car stuck with us. So we knew that we were at that point being followed, and they probably picked us up at our mailbox because Scientology knew where our mailbox was. So knowing that we were on our way to Florida, they probably just had some of their PIs sitting there waiting. So we wanted to lose them because we were on our way to meet with the film crew and do some filming, and we didn't want to have the Scientology PIs hovering around watching what we were doing and knowing where we were staying, and any of that kind of stuff. So we had lived in Florida for so many years that I knew that area like the back of my hand. So we were coming down a street called McMullen Booth, and we lived just down on the corner, near the corner of McMullen Booth and Main Street, Dunedin, just on the other side, which was Clearwater, the other side of the border between Dunedin and Clearwater. So I thought, well, I know how to lose these guys there. So what I did was, I'm going to hold up this map. We turned on from McMullen Booth, we turned onto Main Street. Now there's a tiny little street that crosses over back to McMullen Booth. And it was just like, there's a little jog in it. So what I did is I stopped on Main Street, and there was a line of cars on the way up, and I waited to the last minute, and I turned so that the guy behind me didn't have time to turn because there's a long line of cars. So we sped through, got back onto McMullen Booth, drove down a little bit, and took the first street along, and then we just parked there. And we lost them. We actually lost the two PIs that were in that car. It was kind of an older Jeep that they were following us in. And so we waited, we parked on the side of that road for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, just to make sure that we weren't followed. And then we did a few jogs around different blocks. And then we drove on to, we were staying in Tampa at the time and meeting the film crew. So we did our filming, we did our stuff, and we did some protesting as well around Flag. And when we were done all of that, we were leaving and we were going to go and visit our grandkids, because we were basically done with we had done the billboard, we had done the protesting, we'd done everything we wanted to do in Florida. Except we have our grandkids to live there, so we were going to go and visit. And as we were leaving, and somebody from the film crew called us on the cell phone and said that we were being followed. So, the film crew had hired their own PI to kind of just keep an eye out and stuff like that, keep us safe. And he knew the guy who was following us and the guy was apparently the head of the PI firm that had been hired by Scientology. And he was the one following us. Now, my thought was, at the time when I found that out, was because we lost the other guys so easily, the owner of the company probably said, "Oh, I'll show you guys how it's done." So we were driving, and there's no way I wanted to lead these guys to where our grandkids were. There's just no way. So I thought, well, we have to lose this guy also. So again, knowing the area really well, so we were heading over. We went to Fort Harrison Avenue, and we went down there, and we turned onto one of the side streets. And as soon as I turned, I pulled over to the side, and this guy in this big blue pickup truck he comes around the corner. He doesn't have time to stop or anything, and he goes past us and drives a little way down the street, and he pulls over and sits there kind of waiting to see what we're going to do. Well, I took a look at his truck, and I go, that guy, there's no way he's going to be able to do a U-turn in that big long truck. I could do a U-turn in our car. So I thought, okay. So I did a quick U-turn, went back to Fort Harrison, turned a right turn, went down 2 blocks, turned right, came in behind another building in a parking lot, and just sat there. Well, this guy, we looked out through the trees, and we see this guy in the blue pickup truck screaming by down Fort Harrison. And then 10 minutes later, we see him screaming back again. Then he was screaming back again. And then we saw him kind of go back up towards Flag to where Scientology buildings are. And we waited a few more minutes, and then and then actually what happened at that point was the private investigator that the TV show had hired, they met us out there and just kind of escorted us to make sure that we weren't going to be followed the rest of the way, and we were fine. But it was kind of an adventure, and one of the things that happened that kind of in the middle of that is when we had left the film crew and we were informed that we were being followed. At one point, they had us boxed in on a dead-end street, and we were kind of nervous about that. We didn't know what their plan was. They were just sitting up at the end of the street. So when we kind of left to go back, on our little trip down towards the grandkids, you know, I just kind of slowly cruised past them, and it was like, it was a bit nerve-wracking. It was, yeah, a little adventure, but also we were kind of nervous, and we're just two old retired people, semi-retired or whatever, but you know, I wasn't going to go up against those guys. So anyway, but we did manage to elude them, got to see our grandkids, and had a really nice time. Went to a park, had a nice little cookout, and all went well. So those are my how to dodge Scientology PIs illusion techniques. But they worked, and even with the head of the private investigator firm, I managed to ditch that guy as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this was of some interest. It was kind of looking back on that episode, it was, I guess, a little bit of adventure we had. Not something I want to make a habit of, but we haven't seen a Scientology PI for some years now. If they're watching, they can watch. I don't care at this point. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.